Hi, I'm Miss Van Loan, and in this video, we're going to complete Module 1, Lesson 6, Independent Practice. Hello everyone, we're going to be completing independent practice problems. Remember, I recommend using your math notebook and using your paper the normal way, which is called portrait. Please use a pencil, either number 2 or mechanical, and have an eraser handy. For the purposes of this video, I will be using a blank sheet of white paper and it will be in the landscape orientation. That is because it works better for the video camera. I'm also going to be using pen because it shows up better on camera. All right, let's get started. Module 1, Lesson 6, Independent Practice. So please put the title at the top and then write your name. All right, number 1. Matching. So we're going to match the statement to the property. Match, we'll say equation to prop. We're going to match the equation or statement to the property. So A, B, C, D, and then we have A, B, C, D. So A says -5 plus 5 equals 0. B says -16 plus 4, that's in parentheses, and then plus 5 is equal to -16 plus parentheses 4 plus 5. Whew, almost didn't give myself enough room there. Okay, next one. C says 45 plus 0 equals 45, and D says 9 plus -6 is equal to -6 plus 9. All right, let's go ahead and put the properties here. A is commutative, prop for property. B, inverse prop or property. C is identity prop. And D is associative. Okay, so I know commutative means kind of like to commute or to walk or move. I know inverse means that they're going to be canceling each other out. I know identity means that it stays itself, it doesn't get changed. And then I know associative means that it's kind of like associating in different groups. So let's match those up. I'm going to grab a different color here real quick. And so the one where they cancel each other out to 0, that would be the identity property, the inverse property, right? They're canceling out. So A, capital A goes to B. Okay, then B, -16 plus 4 is grouped, and then -16 stays in the same order, but now we've got the 4 and the 5 grouped. Well, those are associative, right? You're kind of like you're associating with different friends. So capital B goes to lowercase d. Okay, C, capital C. A number plus 0 equals itself. That's identity, so that's straight across. Okay, and then D is, let's see, they're switching places. So 9 plus a -6 is going to be the same thing as a -6 plus a +9. So they actually moved. They switched order. That is commutative. So capital D goes to A. So it should say A goes to lowercase b, capital B goes to lowercase d, capital C goes to lowercase c, and capital D goes to lowercase a. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and do number 2. Simplify the following expressions using the properties of addition. Identify the properties used to justify your steps. So this is just like in the example in Canvas. So number 2 starts with 24 plus negative 18 plus a negative 6. Well, I think that I'm going to use the associative to put together the negative 18 and the negative 6. So I'm going to associate them to each other. So I'm going to leave 24 all by itself there, and then I'm going to put these two negatives together. So negative 18 and negative 6 is actually negative 24. And now a positive 24 and a negative 24, I'm going to use the inverse property to cancel them out, and my answer is 0. Okay, number 3, negative 21 plus 34 plus 21. Well, if I just rewrite this in a different order and I move this positive 21 over next to the negative 21 using the commutative property, then I can cancel them out. Negative 21 plus positive 21 plus 34. So then these ones are going to cancel out using using inverse. So 0 plus 34, and then 0 plus itself, identity, will equal 34. Now there's probably different orders that you can do this in, but this is the way that I see it. All right, let's do number 4. 5 times 2/5 times negative 9 times 5/2. So again, I'm thinking about my properties, and at first I wanted to take this 5 and put it over 1 and then cancel out these 5s, but when I wrote the rest of the equation, I saw one that was even better. This 2/5 will cancel out with 5/2. It's opposite. It's inverse. So over here, we were doing the properties of addition, but here we're multiplying. So they have the same names, but they work slightly differently. Okay, let's put this into action. I'm going to move this 5/2 over next to this 2/5 using commutative. And it's the commutative property of multiplication now. So 5 times 2/5 times 5/2 times negative 9. And if I then use associative to do these guys first, so associative property of multiplication means I can do these ones first because I can do them in whatever order I want. So the 2 and the 2 cancel, the 5 and the 5 cancel, and this is the inverse property where they cancel out and they equal 1. We sometimes call this the big one. So we have 5 times 1 times negative 9. So then 1 times anything, so if I do 5 times 1, it's just going to be 5. That's the identity property of multiplication. and then I bring down the negative 9 times negative 9. 5 times negative 9 is negative 45. All right, let's look at number 5. 8 plus 3/7 plus negative 3/7. Okay, so we're switching gears. Now we're back into the properties of addition. We took a trip into multiplication. Now we're back into addition. Okay, so I can see that these are already together. So that's good. I'm going to associate them. So I'm going to use associative. And then, because they're opposites, I'm going to use inverse property of addition to cancel them out. They equal 0. So this is 8 plus 0. And then we know identity property that anything plus 0 equals itself. So that's 8. Okay. So just be careful on number 4, because number 4 is multiplication, whereas these other ones are addition. Some of the differences are that the commutative property works pretty much the same, because if you're adding a bunch of integers, they can just switch order. If you're multiplying a bunch of numbers, they can just switch order. So commutative works very similar. And so does associative, where you can add these ones together first, or add different ones together first, or multiply different ones together. You don't have to go in order. So associative works similar. Inverse, however, works different, because inverse is when you multiply opposites, you get the big 1, whereas for the additive property, when you add opposites, you get 0. Okay, so look out for that. And then identity is any number times 1 is itself for multiplication. Identity for addition is any number plus 0 is itself. So those are some key differences to look out for. It's kind of nice that we saw each one of these properties being used. Okay, let's move on to number 6. What is the multiplicative inverse of the integer plotted on the number line? So mult inverse, and then we've got a number line, so I'm going to draw it. And we have a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 4, and this is where it's plotted. It's labeled as number P, and it's at 4. So the multiplicative inverse, multiplicative, that means what do we multiply by 4 in order to get a 1? Well, 4 is a whole number, so we could put 4 over 1. So its inverse is going to be the flip of that. So 1 over 4, if we multiply by 1 over 4, then 4 times 1 is 4, 1 times 4 is 4, and that is the big 1, so that equals 1. The other way that I showed you on the last problem was 4 would be like this, 4 over 1 times 1 over 4, and these all cancel out, and we equal 1. So either way that you work that, you're going to get to the big 1, and it will be equal to 1. So what is the multiplicative inverse? It's this thing. It's what we just multiplied by. So 1/4. Number 7. Name the property being shown in each of the following addition statements and explain your reasoning. So this is for 7 through 10. 7 through 10. Name property, name prop, and explain. Oh boy, don't forget the explain part. So number 7, -12 plus 7 in parentheses plus 10 equals -12 plus parentheses 7 plus 10. Well, the parentheses moved, but the order stayed the same. So the parentheses, or the grouping changed, but the order stayed the same. So there's our explanation, and now we're going to name it. So we're going to name this associative prop of, now is it addition or multiplication? It's addition. Okay, number 8. Negative 18 plus 0 equals negative 18. So a number plus 0 equals itself. A number plus 0 equals itself. So that is identity. Property of, and since we're adding, it's going to be addition. So that's the explanation and naming the property. I'm kind of doing it in the reverse order of what it says, but that's okay. That's what makes more sense to me. Number 9, 16.5 times 18.4 equals 18.4 times 16.5. Okay, so these guys moved. They switched orders. So the numbers changed order / location. Right? They moved. So that would be commutative. And since we're multiplying here, we'll say of multiplication. I'm going to shorten that to mult. Commutative property of multiplication. And then let's go up here and we'll do number 10, our final problem. Negative 26 plus positive 26 equals 0. Okay, so a number plus its opposite equals 0. A number plus its opposite equals 0. So that would be the inverse, right? Opposite. Think of opposite and inverse. So inverse property of, and this one's addition. Remember, when it's the multiplication one, it's going to be a number multiplied by its opposite equals 1. So it's a little bit different for the multiplication, but for addition, a number plus its opposite equals 0. All right, and that concludes Module 1, Lesson 6, Independent Practice.